Appalachian State versus Michigan 2007. It was supposed to be routine, a warm-up paycheck game for Michigan. On September 1st, 2007, number 5 Michigan opened its season at the Big House, ready to roll past Appalachian State, a two-time FCS champion from Boone, North Carolina. The Wolverines had senior stars like Chad Henne and Mike Hart, and most fans couldn't even tell you who Appalachian State's quarterback was. That quarterback? Armonte Edwards, a 5'11" lefty who didn't care about rankings or stadium size. On just his third offensive snap, he launched a 68-yard touchdown, stunning the 109,000 fans in Ann Arbor. Then he added 2 more touchdown passes and a rushing score, all before halftime, as App State led 28-17. Still, this was Michigan. Fans believed the Wolverines would wake up and crush the upset dream. Slowly, they chipped away, regaining the lead 32-31 late in the fourth quarter. But a blocked field goal kept App State in it, and Edwards coolly led a clutch drive that set up a go-ahead 24-yard field goal with under a minute to play. Michigan still had one last shot. They lined up for a 37-yard field goal to escape disaster. And then it happened again. App State blocked it. Final score, 34-32. The first time an FCS team had ever beaten a ranked FBS opponent. The aftermath was massive. Michigan tumbled out of the top 25. The Associated Press changed its rules so FCS teams could receive votes. And App State, they went on to win their third straight FCS title and later joined the FBS. That day, David didn't just beat Goliath. He blocked 2 kicks, outran him, and rewrote college football history. And yes, Michigan paid them nearly $400,000 for the honor. Boise State versus Oklahoma, Fiesta Bowl, 2007. The 2007 Fiesta Bowl between Boise State and Oklahoma is widely remembered as one of the most dramatic and unforgettable games in college football history. A true David versus Goliath. Goliath clash that had everything: upsets, comebacks, trick plays, and even a live proposal. From the start, Boise State, an undefeated team from the Western Athletic Conference, came out swinging. Against the heavily favored Oklahoma Sooners, they shocked viewers by storming to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. By halftime, it was 21-10 in Boise's favor. The Broncos weren't just hanging with the big boys, they were outplaying them. But Oklahoma wasn't done. In the second half, they roared back with a vengeance, scoring 25 straight points. With just over a minute left, they finally took their first lead of the game, 35-28, thanks to a pick six that seemed to seal Boise State's fate. But what followed was pure magic. Facing a 4th and 18 with only seconds left, Boise pulled off a stunning hook and lateral play. Zabransky to James, who lateraled to Rab, who sprinted 35 yards for a touchdown. Tie game. Overtime. Oklahoma struck first in overtime with a 25-yard Adrian Peterson touchdown. Then Boise answered with a trick play touchdown pass on 4th down. Down 42-41, they made the boldest call of all. Go for 2 and the win. What did they run? A Statue of Liberty play. Zabransky faked a pass, then handed off behind his back to Ian Johnson, who ran untouched into the end zone. Boise State 43, Oklahoma 42. Upset complete. And just when it couldn't get any crazier, Johnson proposed to his girlfriend, the Boise State head cheerleader, live on national TV. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Boise State had proven mid-major teams could hang with the best and beat them in epic fashion. To this day, the 2007 Fiesta Bowl is still held up as the greatest college football bowl game ever played. James Madison versus Virginia Tech, 2010. On paper, this was supposed to be a cupcake game. Just 5 days after a tough loss to Boise State number 13, Virginia Tech was ready to bounce back in front of a home crowd at Lane Stadium. Their opponent, James Madison University. A solid FCS team, sure, but still a team that was getting paid $400,000 to show up and lose politely. But JMU didn't read the script. The Dukes, led by quarterback Drew Dudzik, played with zero fear. They controlled the clock, protected the football, and took advantage of every mistake Virginia Tech made. One of the game's biggest moments came when Jamal Sullivan turned a simple swing pass into a stunning 77-yard touchdown. It wasn't flashy, but it was just clean, smart football. Virginia Tech, meanwhile, looked like they were still hungover from Boise. They turned the ball over 3 times and failed to score when it mattered most. JMU's defense stood tall in the fourth quarter, stopping a last-minute Hokie drive deep in their own territory. When the final whistle blew, the scoreboard read 21-16, and the stadium went dead silent. It was Tech's first loss to an FCS opponent since 1982. And JMU? They didn't just cash the check, they cashed in on history. This wasn't just a bad day for a big team. It was a program-defining moment for James Madison, one that said loud and clear that even little brothers in college football can slap the Giants awake. And yes, they were paid nearly $500,000, to ruin Virginia Tech's weekend. Stanford versus USC 2007. Some games are forgotten the moment they end. Others live forever, especially when a 41-point underdog topples a Titan. That's exactly what happened on October 6, 2007, when unranked Stanford walked into the LA Coliseum and stunned number 2 USC 24-23. USC was a machine at the time. Under Pete Carroll, the Trojans hadn't lost at home home in 6 years. They were riding a 35-game home win streak stacked with future NFL stars and chasing another national title. Nobody, and we mean nobody, gave Stanford a chance. The point spread? A ridiculous 41 points, one of the largest in college football history. Meanwhile, Stanford was coming off a 1-11 season. Their starting quarterback, T.C. Ostrander, was sidelined after suffering a seizure, so Tavita Pritchard, a sophomore with 0 career starts, got the nod. And it was also Jim Harbaugh's first season as head coach. The setup screamed blowout, but Stanford came to play. They kept the game close with scrappy defense and timely plays. Still, down 23-17 late in the fourth, they needed a miracle. Facing 4th and 20, Pritchard hit a clutch pass to none other than Richard Sherman. Yes, the same Sherman who'd later become an NFL All-Pro. That conversion kept the drive alive. Then, with 49 seconds left and the season hanging on a thread, Pritchard threw a perfect 10-yard touchdown to Mark Bradford on 4th and goal. The extra point was good. Stanford took the lead. The Coliseum, once deafening, fell silent. USC never recovered. The clock ran out, and Stanford had pulled off what many still call the greatest upset in Pac-12 history. This wasn't just a shocking win. It was the birth of a new Stanford identity. It launched Harbaugh's rise and shattered USC's aura of invincibility. And more than anything, it reminded everyone why college football is unlike any other sport. No win is guaranteed, and no underdog is ever truly out of it. Not even when they're a 41-point underdog. Pitt versus West Virginia 13-9, 2007. December 1st, 2007. West Virginia was sitting at number 2 in the nation, 1 win away from the BCS National Championship game. All they had to do was beat their longtime rivals, the Pittsburgh Panthers, a team limping into Morgantown with a 4-7 record and 0 postseason hopes. The Mountaineers were favored by 28 points, and fans were already dreaming of Bourbon Street. But then came the backyard brawl, and everything unraveled. From the first snap, Pitt looked tougher, hungrier, and far more prepared. Their freshman quarterback, Pat Bostic, who'd been pressed into action earlier in the season, kept his cool in one of the loudest stadiums in college football. On the ground, LaShawn Shady McCoy, just a freshman, ran with purpose, racking up 148 yards against a defense that had no answers for him. West Virginia's offense, one of the most explosive in the country, stumbled hard. When quarterback Pat White injured his thumb in the second quarter, the air left the stadium. Backup Jarrett Brown tried to rally, but Pitt's defense wouldn't budge. Meanwhile, West Virginia University kicker Pat McAfee missed 2 crucial field goals, adding to the growing nightmare. Pitt never let up. They held WVU to just 1 touchdown and tacked on 2 field goals of their own, bringing the score to 13-7. In the final seconds, Pitt intentionally took a safety to burn the clock and end it, sealing the scoreline 13-9. That number still haunts Mountaineer fans. West Virginia missed the title game, LSU won it all, and head coach Rich Rodriguez announced days later he was leaving for Michigan, adding salt to the wound. For Pitt, it was more than an upset. It was revenge, history, and a moment of pride that fans will remember forever. Just say 13-9 in Pittsburgh and they'll grin. Say it in Morgantown and watch them wince, because sometimes your little brother doesn't just beat you, he ruins your whole season. Michigan State versus Ohio State, 2015. The 2015 Ohio State Buckeyes were defending champs, loaded with stars like Ezekiel Elliott and Joey Bosa, and riding a 23-game win streak. They were number 2 in the country, playing at home in Columbus against Michigan State, who, oh by the way, were starting their backup quarterback because Connor Cook was injured. Surely OSU would roll. Instead, in a cold, rainy slugfest, Michigan State's defense suffocated the Buckeyes, holding them to just 132 total yards. The Spartans didn't even score a touchdown there. They kicked 4 field goals, the last one a 41-yarder by Michael Geiger as time expired. Geiger sprinted around the field windmilling his arm like a helicopter, instantly becoming a meme. Fun fact, Ezekiel Elliott, frustrated by only getting 12 carries, publicly ripped Ohio State's play calling after the game, and then declared for the NFL draft. Sparty's 17-14 win not only shocked the country, it derailed Ohio State's repeat dreams and sent Michigan State to the Big Ten title game. For OSU fans, it was the definition of a gut punch. For MSU fans, it was proof they could out-tough the bully in their own backyard. Texas A&M versus Alabama 2012. In 2012, Texas A&M was the new kid on the block, freshly moved into the SEC and still adjusting to life in the toughest conference in college football. Most folks expected growing pains, especially when, on November 10th, the Aggies rolled into Tuscaloosa to face the number 1 team in the country, Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide. What they got instead was a front-row seat to history. Quarterback Johnny Manziel, then just a redshirt freshman, didn't flinch. On A&M's first drive, he fumbled a snap, casually picked it back up, rolled right, and tossed a touchdown like he was at recess. That play set the tone. A&M jumped out to a 20-0 lead in the first quarter, stunning the Bama crowd into silence. Alabama, as expected, fought back. A.J. McCarron led the Tide on multiple scoring drives, trimming the lead to just 5 points late in the fourth. With under 2 minutes left, Bama had a 1st and goal inside the Aggie 10-yard line. It felt like another typical Saban comeback, but not today. On 4th and goal, McCarron dropped back and threw a game-sealing interception to Deshazor Everett. Final score, Texas A&M 29, Alabama 24. Manziel finished with 345 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That night, he went from talented freshman to household name, and by season's end, he became the first freshman in history to win the Heisman Trophy. For Alabama, the loss hurt, but they still bounced back to win the national championship. For A&M, though, this was a breakthrough. It wasn't just an upset, it was a seismic announcement that they belonged in the SEC, and it was the night Johnny Football became legend. USC versus Texas, Rose Bowl 2006. Some upsets are remembered because of shock value, others because of beauty. The 2006 Rose Bowl BCS title game was both. USC came in on a 34-game winning streak, led by Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, both Heisman winners. Texas, led by Vince Young, was undefeated but still doubted. What followed was an instant classic. USC led late, but on 4th and 5 with under a minute left, Young scrambled into the end zone, sealing a 41-38 Texas win. He accounted for 467 yards by himself, more than USC's entire offense. Fun fact, this game is often called the greatest college football game ever played, and ESPN once ranked it number 1 in sports history. The upset wasn't just about rankings, it was about legacy. USC's dynasty crumbled, Bush's Heisman was later vacated, and Texas has spent nearly 2 decades trying to return to that mountaintop. But for one night, under the Pasadena lights, Vince Young was unstoppable. His iconic run and outstretched arm live forever in highlight reels, a single play that dethroned giants and made him immortal. Syracuse versus Clemson, 2017. Clemson entered October 2017 as the reigning national champs, ranked number 2 and rolling with NFL talent everywhere. Syracuse, they were unranked, sitting at 3-3 and coached by Dino Babers, who loved playing fast but hadn't beaten anyone notable. In the Carrier Dome that Friday night, the Orange lit it up. Quarterback Eric Dungy threw for 278 yards, ran for another 61, and Syracuse stunned Clemson 27-24. The Dome crowd stormed the field like they'd just won the lottery, because honestly, they had. Fun fact, Vegas had Clemson as a 24-point favorite, and even wilder, Syracuse's kicker Cole Murphy nailed a 30-yard field goal barefoot because his cleat broke earlier that week. Clemson still made the college football playoff, but this loss nearly derailed them. For Syracuse, it was their biggest football win in decades, proof that even basketball schools can have Friday night football magic. Army versus Michigan 1945. This one was less of a shock and more of a wartime juggernaut flexing muscles. In 1945, Army football was the powerhouse, led by Heisman winners Doc Blanchard and Glenn Davis, nicknamed Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside. Michigan, though, was still Michigan, with tradition and pride and a massive crowd packed into Yankee Stadium to watch them. Army crushed Michigan 28-7, proving just how dominant they were during World War II. Fun fact, that Army team is often called one of the greatest ever. They went undefeated, outscored opponents 412-46, and were basically an NFL-level squad dressed in cadet uniforms. The upset here is more about the era. People expected Michigan to at least put up a fight, but Army turned them into tackling dummies. In hindsight, it was a reminder that during the 1940s, the service academies weren't just competitive, they ruled college football. Center College versus Harvard, 1921. Now here's the original David versus Goliath story. In 1921, Harvard was a national football titan, a tiny school from Danville, Kentucky, with barely 300 students. Yet on October 29th, Center pulled off the impossible, beating Harvard 6-0 in Cambridge. The only score came when Center's Bo McMillan ran for a 32-yard touchdown. Fun fact, the game is forever remembered for the phrase C6H0, Center's proud shorthand for Center 6, Harvard 0. They even painted it on campus walls for decades. Sports writers called it the greatest upset in college football history at the time, and it cemented Center as a legend despite their size. Harvard was stunned. The football world laughed in disbelief, and Danville, Kentucky, celebrated like they had conquered the Ivy League, because in a way they did. Each of these upsets has told a story of grit, guts, and giant killers. They shaped dynasties and crushed dreams, all in 4 quarters or less. College football lives for these moments, and so do we. If you're still buzzing from this list, smash that subscribe button and comment the craziest upset you've ever witnessed live. Until next time, keep safe.